This episode of the BlockHash Podcast is brought to you by Sumsub, the leading full-cycle verification platform built specifically for the crypto industry. Trusted by 8 out of the 10 biggest global exchanges, Sumsub helps VASPs, exchanges, and DeFi platforms prevent fraud, stay compliant, and scale globally, all without slowing down user onboarding. With instant KYC and KYB, automated crypto transaction monitoring, and full travel rule compliance across a network of more than 1,800 VASPs, Sumsub adapts fast to evolving threats and regulations. They verify over 14,000 document types worldwide and onboard users in under 20 seconds, achieving conversion rates up to 95% plus in key markets. If you want secure growth and a frictionless onboarding experience for your users, visit sumsub.com to learn more. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash Podcast, your number one resource for all that is happening across the emerging tech space. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. Today, I'm joined by another fantastic guest, Hazel Lee. She's the co-founder of BeatSwap, where they are innovating on the way intellectual property rights are distributed. Hazel, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me, and it's really a pleasure to meet you guys all.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Super excited to learn more about BeatSwap and what you guys are working on to get things underway. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself first, your background, a little bit about your story and how you got into the space and how that eventually led to you co-founding BeatSwap.
So I actually started my career in media as an announcer. So later on, I moved into a blockchain-focused media outlet, so which where I was first introduced to Web3 industry. So like at the beginning, I will be honest, I thought that Web3 industry is really complex and intimidating to me. So I didn't seem like an easy industry to understand or explain. So, but the more I learned, the more I realized how much potential it had and how fundamentally it could reshape existing system. So what stood out to me the most was real world assets. So compared to like more abstract use cases, RWA felt practical and necessary, something that could actually bridge Web3 with real industries. So through interviewing like many different projects, the area I consistently resonate with the most was intellectual property, like the IP. So in Web2, protecting IP rights is extremely difficult. Like ownership is often unclear, settlements are opaque, and the creator have like a little control. That realization naturally led to me BitSwap. So it sits right at the intersection of RWA and IP, and two areas I believe are really, really essential for the future of Web3. So joining BitSwap felt less like a career move and more like a natural continuation of everything I had been learning and questioning up to that point.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, especially with the state of IP and where that's at these days. I'm curious how BeatSwap works in practice. Can you walk us through a little bit about, I guess, the functionality behind BeatSwap, how it works, how it protects IP, and some of the things that you guys have created underneath it to make that possible?
So on BitSwap, we have some system. It's called Oracle. So it's our verification system. So we record all the data on chain like in real time. So like creators can check our like platform with the Oracle on chain in real time. So like they could check like how many people listened to it or like how many people shared its IP right and so on. And also fans can participate on our platform. They could unlock the music, stream the music, and they can even own the music. And of course, investors can see the whole process because we aim to be a full stack platform. So it really benefits all the people, like creators, fans, and the investors.
Is Oracle the only platform that you guys have? I saw you guys also had something called Space and RWA Launcher. Are those kind of something that work in tandem?
So for now, we have Oracle system, and we have like some models that could reward the on-chain actions, like it's called V2E and L2E. And beside that, we are planning to launch um, DEX and Space in this year. So that's upcoming event for this year.
Then I want to dive a little bit deeper into the Oracle platform, just a little bit more to fully understand it. Because building trust between creators, fans, investors when it comes to tokenizing IP is something that's really important. But why is locking rights data on chain such a critical step for you guys? What was the thought process in going into doing that?
Mhm. So, verification is the foundation that makes IP viable as a real world asset. So, common misconception is that putting something on chain automatically makes it real. But in reality, if ownership, usage, and royalty data aren't verified, the on-chain representation becomes speculative. So IP is not a physical asset. It's defined by rights agreements, like usage event and royalty flows. So BitSwap's Oracle verifies those elements off chain, like such as streams or unlocks, and anchors them on chain as immutable record. So, for example, when a track is streamed or content is unlocked, that usage is validated and recorded as a licensing event. So, this transforms IP from a system based on delayed reports and trust into one that is verifiable in real time. So creators, fans, and investors no longer need to rely on intermediaries or wait for months for settlements. With verified data on chain, IP rights become transparent, auditable, and enforceable, which is essential for IP to function as a credible RWA.
What do you think makes IP, I guess, different from other real world assets like real estate or commodities, for example? I know you mentioned the fact that IP is something that's not physical, that being like one aspect. But what really makes it also unique compared to some of these other things that we see that are typically tokenized?
I think that IP is one of the strongest real world assets for blockchain based ownership because it is digital first by nature. So, unlike real estate or commodities, IP already moves globally through streaming and licensing without any physical or geographic constraints. And it operates across border 24/7, which aligns perfectly with how blockchain functions. So, another key difference is that cash flow, so IP generates recurring revenue through royalties rather than relying on a single sales or appreciation event. That makes it deal for smart contracts, automated settlements, and transparent revenue sharing. So once you solve the verification layer, IP becomes scalable, liquid, and globally accessible in the way that few other RWAs can match. So in that sense, IP isn't just compatible with blockchain, it's fundamentally optimized for it, I think.
What other economic behaviors do you think would be possible when IP is treated as a liquid on-chain asset versus the way that it's existing today?
So on BitSwap, fractional ownership is not just about dividing IP into smaller tradable units. It's about restructuring how IP value is generated, verified, and distributed through real usage and long-term alignment. So traditional IP market treat ownership, usage, and capital as a separated layers. Creators own rights but lack transparency. And fans generate value through engagement without any economic recognition. And investors participate through opaque static deals. So BitSwap connects these layers through two complementary participation model, which is called licensing to earn and vault to earn, both anchored by verified IP rights. So licensing to earn is the primary value engine, So every time IP is used through streaming, unlocking content, or engagement, that activity is verified by the Oracle as a license usage event. These events generate on-chain signals that reflect real IP demand. So fractional IP on BitSwap is therefore backed by continuous usage-driven value rather than speculative ownership. And Vault to Earn introduces a long-term capital alignment layer. So participants who support IP liquidity through the Vault system earn reward based on time weight participation, aligning capital with sustained IP performance rather than short-term trading. So together, L2E and V2E redefine fractional ownership. So fans are not passive holders. Their engagement directly contributes to IP performance through L2E. And investors are not extractive. Their capital is aligned with long-term value creation through V2E. And creators retain ownership while assessing flexible, transparent monetization tied to real usage. And Space and the broader RWA infrastructure unify these dynamics into a single ecosystem. So social participation, usage verifications, and financial reward all operate on the same on-chain data layer, ensuring that every participant is aligned around real verified IP activity. So this model enables entirely new economic behavior. So IP becomes a liquid, yield generating asset driven by cultural engagement and long-term support. So value flows to creators, fans, and investors based on contribution, not position. So this is not something that traditional marketplace or NFT platform can replicate. It requires a full stack IP protocol where verification, participation, and liquidity are natively connected. And that is the foundation of BitSwap.
Do you have any use cases between creators, fans that you can kind of share as an example of just kind of how BeatSwap is working?
So one of the most powerful use cases um, lies in how fans participate directly in the IP economy. So when fans stream or unlock content on BitSwap, those actions are recorded as verified licensing events rather than like passive consumption. So this shift fans from listener to participant. Their engagement directly contributes to the IP's on-chain value and is reflected transparently through usage data. So, as a result, creators gain a direct economic connection with their communities, aligning cultural engagement with measurable and sustainable outcomes. This participation driven structure is also a key reason BitSwap continues to hold a leading position in the BNB chain DeFi RWA category, demonstrating a real-world traction beyond speculative narratives. So for investors, the same verified data provide clarity. And instead of like relying on hype or assumed popularity, IP can be evaluated through concrete usage, participation, and revenue signals.
Time for a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Sumsub. Crypto is global, fast moving, and full of emerging threats. You need a verification partner that moves even faster. Sumsub combines blockchain intelligence, identity verification, and behavioral fraud detection into one powerful platform. So you can screen, score, and monitor users at every step. Their AI powered system detects anomalies, account takeovers, and illicit wallet activity before transactions hit the blockchain, giving your compliance team superpowers. Trusted by 4,000 plus clients across fintech and crypto, Sumsub helps organizations expand into new markets with confidence while maintaining full compliance with global regulations. Whether you're scaling an exchange, launching a DeFi product, or securing a Web3 community, Sumsub has you covered. Check them out today at sumsub.com. What kind of creators do you see generally showing interest in BeatSwap, having their IP tokenized through BeatSwap? Is there a particular vertical of creators that would use this more than others, like in music or media, or is it something you can see a lot of different niches using?
So the future of IP is moving toward a creator-led and community-powered economy, we think. So as its core, this shift recognizes that IP is not a static asset. It's dynamic. So value is continuously created through usage, engagement, and participation, which means creators and communities must be central to how IP economies function. So today, this model is still seen as a niche innovation, not because the idea is flawed, but because of like practical barriers. So user experience can be complex. Regulatory frameworks are still evolving, and there aren't enough widely visible success story yet. So for tokenized IP to reach mainstream adoption, three conditions needed to be met. So first is participation must be simple enough for everyday creators, so not just Web3 natives. So second, transparency must be verifiable rather than assumed. Creators need proof, not promises. And third is that creators must be able to point to real working system where IP generates ongoing income tied to actual usage. So I think there will be some resistance from traditional industry players, largely because transparency challenges long-standing opaque system. But once creator experience real-time visibility and communities experience meaningful participation, expectations shift permanently. So in the long run, creator-led and community-powered IP ecosystems won't exist as an alternative model. They will become a default structure for how creative value is owned, measured, and shared.
Yeah, I think you made an important point there in terms of the friction that exists in this industry, and the way things are kind of done just traditionally for creators and content creators out there, influencers, KOLs, anyone that may have IP or be in this kind of a situation. It's very difficult to break that mold sometimes when that's just kind of how the system is already laid out. Changing it in a way that BeatSwap works. So looking at IP, it generates massive value. Creators rarely have transparent, flexible ways to monetize or share, like you've kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. So I'm wondering what maybe the core problems are today in traditional IP rights and music, the financial side of it, that really pushed you guys to create BeatSwap.
So the core problem we saw in traditional IP rights and music finance is that the system is fundamentally opaque and dilated. From a creator's perspective, you rarely know how your IP is being used in real time and how royalty are calculated, or when you will actually get paid. So in many cases, creators wait about 6 months to a year just to receive settlement reports, and let alone the funds themselves. So this lack of transparency creates a system where creators are forced to rely on trust rather than verifiable data. So you create the value, but you're not always you are the one who always waiting for reports, waiting for payments, and waiting for explanations. So yeah, that's why we decided to build a system to replace the trust-based model with a verification-based one. So by registering IP rights on chain, we make usage, ownerships, and royalty transparent and auditable in time. So the goal is simple. Creators shouldn't have to wait or guess when it comes to the value they create. So at the same time, the fans who emotionally support artists have no meaningful way to participate economically. and investors are locked out of IP as an asset class altogether. So BitSwap was built to solve this structure imbalance. We wanted to create a system where IP ownership is transparent, programmable, and accessible, where creators regain control, fans can participate meaningfully, and IP can finally function as a real financial asset on chain.
So, what's on the horizon for you guys at BeatSwap the rest of this year going forward? Do you have any important upcoming launches or announcements? What should users, creators be aware of?
So this year is really about expanding utility and enriching the BitSwap ecosystem. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, like last year, we really focused on laying the foundation, like including expanding market access through multiple listing on T1 exchanges. As the ecosystem continued to grow, we are actively preparing for additional global exchanging listings as a part of our broader expansion strategy. On the product side, this is the key activation year. So our priority is fully rolling out Space and the RWA launcher and moving them into real usage. So these aren't like standalone features. They are core layers that connect participation, IP activity, and on-chain revenue. So as these layers comes online, token utility expand organically, and not through speculation, but through creators onboarding IP, fans participating through licensing to earn, and long-term supporters engaging through Vault to earn. And that's how we expect Web3 native revenue to grow across the ecosystem in a sustainable way. So, in terms of events and conferences, we are being intentional. So, we are actively in discussion with media partners and event organizers, and we will be participate where it makes sense to support creator onboarding and ecosystem growth. And the best way to stay updated is through our X channel, where you will share announcements as a plan are finalized.
Excellent. Other than X, do you guys have a website or a place where people can get more information and just kind of learn about BeatSwap in more detail? And then at the same time, is there any way for creators to inquire about participating in BeatSwap or get involved or participate in any other way in the meantime? Where can you send people generally?
So the best place to start is our website. Of course, it's at bitswap.io, and where you can get all the overview of our protocol and explore IP data and follow product updates as the ecosystem evolves. For real-time announcement, including product rollouts, ecosystem updates, and media coverage, of course, we are most active on X at BitXSwap. So creators who want to participate can engage with BitSwap in a very direct way. We work with creators to onboard their IP, verify rights through our Oracle, and activate their IP within the ecosystem. So that includes structuring ownership, enabling usage-based participation through licensing to earn, and connecting their work to long-term support through Vault to earn. We also have an active community on Telegram where creators, contributors, and users can engage with the team and follow ongoing developments. So, anyone interested in building, participating, or collaborating with is welcomed to join and start the conversation.
Excellent. Well, we'll be sure to put everything in the description below in terms of links so people can find everything super easily. But Hazel, I appreciate you taking the time today. It's been great learning more about BeatSwap and in particular how you guys are turning IP rights into an investable RWA approach, creating a market where creators, fans, and investors can really own, trade, and earn all together. I think it's really Fantastic stuff. So best of luck to you guys this year. And definitely let me know if you go to any conferences in the US or anywhere exciting. If we meet up, would love to do a part 2 at some point, continue to learn about your guys' journey at BeatSwap and everything you guys are working on.
Okay, thank you for inviting me today.
Very welcome. Take care and we'll talk soon.